And our top story this hour, the Democratic Alliance has accused Communications Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams of misleading Parliament by not disclosing earlier that the National Treasury had rejected the SABC's request for a guarantee.
Last week, Minister Ndabeni-Abrahams told Parliament that the SABC was in discussions with Treasury about the SABC's application for a government guarantee. It has since emerged that the Finance Minister Tito Mboweni had already declined the application for a government guarantee in a letter that he wrote to the minister dated June 25.
Depending on the truth contained in the letter, if it does mean that a warranty has not been given or a bailout has not been given to the SABC, we understand this from the Minister of Finance's perspective, given the financial constraints that our country is facing. However, if the Ministry of Finance is able to give tens of billions of rands bailout and guarantees to Eskom, surely a small amount can be given to the SABC to alleviate the dire financial situation it is in. We served on the SABC Board of Inquiry, which implemented subsequent turnaround strategies. The new board is processing turnaround strategies, and these need to be supported. So we would urge the Minister of Finance to at the very least find some financial assistance, whether it is from the contingency fund or elsewhere, to alleviate the urgent financial crisis facing the SABC, which might lead to a blackout of the SABC. This financial crisis has been coming a long time. The board warned the ministers almost a year ago, and now we are faced with this possible situation, if the truth is contained in that letter, that both a guarantee and a bailout has been refused. And a further question is why the Minister of Communications did not disclose this fact to the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee last week when she appeared before it. She would have known that the guarantee had been refused by the Minister of Finances, and she should have disclosed that as well to the Portfolio Committee. So from our side as the ACDP, whilst understanding the financial constraints of the government, we would urge some financial assistance to assist the SABC to, at the very least, paid salaries and to avoid a blackout.
It has been dragging on for a very long time. I think even before the other board members resigned, where they came to Parliament and they basically said the buildings were falling apart and they need money. At the end of the last term of Parliament, we were given the indication by Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams and also the Finance Minister that this issue was on hand. A reorganization officer would be appointed. It was going to be sorted out. Here we are in July. The matter still has not been resolved. And I think part of the reason it hasn't been resolved is because the minister holds some very negative views about the SABC management and about the SABC board. It was very clear during the committee meeting that she was not a fan of them. And as reported in the City Press this weekend, she regularly badmouths the SABC to whomever will listen, and no doubt did the same at National Treasury. So all we're asking is, can she put her feelings aside? Can Minister Mboweni read about the mandate of the SABC and that the SABC is independent, and while the minister can give input, the ultimate authority lies with the board. So that must be understood by the Finance Minister, that must be understood by the Communications Minister, and can they get back to the table and work this out? It doesn't have to deal with just merely money. It has to deal with people. It has to deal with staff at the SABC who have lived through the reign of terror that was Claudia Motsoeneng and are now living in an era of uncertainty. I just wonder about their well-being. The SABC has told us they have money to cover salaries for 3 months. What happens after the 3 months if those salaries are not paid? And also the SABC is an important institution for South Africa's democracy. It's a public broadcaster. It's a place where South Africans are informed, educated and entertained. And for many South Africans who can't afford streaming, who can't afford DSTV, some of them don't even have TVs, SABC radio stations are their only connection to the world. So we need to protect the SABC, we need to protect it from political interference, and we need to make sure that it has the funding it requires to continue doing their job. It would be different if it was still the Hlaudi Motsoeneng management where money had been squandered. But this is new management. They are working in very, very difficult conditions to try keep the SABC afloat. I was impressed, for example, that last term they appeared before Parliament and they hadn't presented substantive cost-cutting measures. But they came back this time and they've cut 1 billion. So all we're saying is the people in the SABC are doing the best they can. Can government please come on board and assist them?
Meanwhile, media